So let's be honest about something. In its current state, Hermes Agent is a better, more reliable AI agent than OpenClaw. They've added a ton of functionality over the last month that has not only made it a super powerful 24/7 AI employee, but more importantly, has made it incredibly reliable.
And that is Alex Finn. We're going to watch him and other people show us how to install Hermes Agent and how to use it to make money and build businesses. And while we watch it, I've got an entrepreneur who's used Hermes day to day to build his business, talking about what's practical here and what is BS and how you can use it to build your business. Let's start watching, Justin.
OpenClaw has had two major issues over the last month that has led to a tremendous amount of people switching from OpenClaw to Hermes.
And by the way, you've actually had issues with it even from the beginning with OpenClaw, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It forgets things. It just decides it wants to do things differently, and I need my agents to act right.
Right.
At Google Trends, anything right now, the chart for OpenClaw is going like this. Oof. The chart for Hermes Agent's going like that. The two major issues are that. One is, and this is the part that pisses me off the most, every single update breaks OpenClaw. They release an update every day. They're shipping a ton. I'm not going to hate on them for that. They're shipping a ton, but everything they ship breaks OpenClaw. Every time I update OpenClaw, it breaks, and I have to go back in and spend half an hour fixing it. That is not an experience people want. The second thing, and I'm seeing this probably more often on the timeline, is bloat. The app is just getting huge. It's getting too many features and functionality. And the more people use it, the more it slows down over time. Performance has just crumbled a ton for people. For me, I experienced this once a few months ago. Then I spent hours and hours and hours trying to figure out why it was happening and what I can do to prevent it from happening again. I found the culprit to mostly be the way it manages sessions. I have another video from a couple months ago when I solved this.
All right, there are a bunch of issues with OpenClaw. It is the one that put all these agents on the map, but it's getting a lot of hate, and I understand it. It is very frustrating, right?
Yeah, I've told people over and over again, OpenClaw as an idea is probably one of the most important ideas in software, ideas in tech that's come around. I don't know that it's the greatest execution of that idea. Currently, I think Hermes is winning on that execution.
All right, and Alex is a big talker, but he's right there. Now, let's take a look here at what are some of the benefits of it. This Ray's good on that.
Genuinely unique here that I find really interesting. Every other agent normally just uses the model. This is specific agent can actually help you improve the model. And let me explain a little bit more. So your conversations with Hermes actually become training data. That's right. They actually build tools specifically for this. And you can take those conversations and then fine tune the model to be better at what you actually need. Just think about what it can do for your business and whatever other types of things that you're doing in your local environments. So you could just basically run a local model, use the agents, generate the training data, and then the model actually gets better. And you just keep repeating. It's kind of crazy, right?
Have you found that out of the box, it does do that?
Yes, absolutely. That's been my number one reason why Hermes over OpenClaw. Like, there's a lot of the other things that I argue about on OpenClaw that technically, if I was a better coder or tech person, I could get around those things. But this right here is the crux of what makes Hermes so good, is I don't have to go install skills, which means I don't have to worry about some of the prompt injection security issues. Hermes makes its own skills on the fly. So when I'm working with Nikki, who's my content writer profile on Hermes, and she's writing a blog post, and I'm like, oh, hold on a second, don't do that. She remembers that, and it's added to her skill file. And so literally the more you use it and kind of your first couple of days with it, it's going to be a little rough, but it's going to start remembering all the don't do this, do it this way, and it's going to get really premium experience.
That's the magic. All right.
Yeah.
By the way, I'm sponsored by Zapier, which I use to connect about 10,000 apps to any AI agent that I use. Let's talk about how to install it on a computer quickly, then we'll get into some of the use cases. I like how some of these people that we found online are installing it. This guy you liked best. Look at this.
So if you have a fresh Mac computer, which is what most people have, the first thing you have to install is this thing called Homebrew, right here, Homebrew. Homebrew is basically like a way for you to install packages on your Mac from the terminal. So if you're on a fresh Mac, you'll hit like Command Spacebar, you'll type in terminal, you'll press enter, and then this terminal thing will come up. And if you go to brew.sh, which is a website, they'll have this command that you can paste into your terminal. And when you paste it in and press enter, it'll install Homebrew. The most common place where it breaks for a lot of people that I've seen is there's these things called the Xcode developer tools, and you have to install them separately. So if it fails for some reason, you can use this command xcode-select --install, and that'll install like the Xcode tools. Another thing that's useful to have is OpenCode. OpenCode is like a competitor to Claude Code. It's another like terminal-based coding agent. The reason why I find it's useful to have when you're installing Hermes or any of these like kind of, beta agent tools is that in case you need to debug something in a config file, you can actually use OpenCode to do so.
Let me talk about that real quick.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I love finding guys like this on YouTube. Alex is cool. Greg Eisenberg's, those guys are awesome, But like this guy, what is he got? 571 subscribers
and 517 views on this from a month ago.
Yeah, like this guy. He's the real deal. He is. I love finding stuff like this because this guy is the techie that I'm looking for that can actually walk me through it and does it step by step. He talks about OpenCode here. He's trying to save some people some money. I just use Claude, but essentially what he's saying is like, hey, if you run into a problem, use something like a Claude or a Codex or an OpenCode, take a screenshot and say like, what broke? How do I fix this?
Right.
And so he's giving you some tips here because he's right. If you don't have Homebrew installed, if you don't have the Xcode thing, sometimes your install will go wrong and you're 2-3 hours finding just that one little thing. And my favorite thing is just have Claude open in another window, take some screenshots. Hey, Claude, I'm stuck. What's happening? And it'll just get you right back going.
Yeah, and we'll of course have links to all of this in the description. All right. He also talks about, like you mentioned, different providers here.
What a lot of people will do is like they'll set up, they'll use Anthropic's like Claude, and like that family of models. The problem is like they're really expensive, and if you're just like messing around with this stuff for personal reasons, like you probably don't need it. So if you want like free or really cheap models, I recommend using OpenRouter or the Nous Portal. So it's Nous, but it's pronounced new. So like for example, this week on the Nous Portal, you can see that this Xiaomi model called Mimo V2 Pro is free. That's like pretty cool. But then you can also see like there's a bunch of cheaper models that you can choose from. I like Kimi K2.5. I like all of the Quen models. I love Minimax 2.7. And you can see like the pricing here as well. So
this is a really good tip. Now, when I interviewed you about your setup, the thing I didn't ask you became the number one question people ask in the comments, which is, what are you using? So what model are you using?
I use Claude Sonnet 4.6.
Okay.
I find that one is a good happy medium between, you have to balance capability and cost. And sometimes, I like what he's showing here because if you're just a hobbyist, you're just trying to learn, there are some really cheap ways you can get started to play with it. But I just had a use case today where I was coming into the same problem over and over again. And I was using Sonnet 4.6, but then I did /model and I changed it to Opus 4.7, and he was able to figure out why he was having that problem. So that's what I mean. You got to balance capability with cost. And so I find Sonnet 4.6 is a nice happy middle, not too expensive, but still really good capabilities. And then on the fly, you can /model and go up or down, as needed.
Okay, now all these people have been showing how to install it on a computer. You actually use a VPS. Before I hit play and have you tell me what you think of how he's doing it, I like Nate a lot. Nate Herrick, this guy publishes like 3 times, 5 times a week.
Guy's a machine, and he's
Unreal.
legit. His stuff is good. Yeah.
And unlike me, you always see me like with a sense of anxiety of rushing. He's just calm teaching. I go like, dude, where's your lack of anxiety coming from when you're doing so much? Anyway. Why do you prefer to do it on a VPS instead of on a laptop or computer on your desk?
Okay, so one, I was a homesteader and lived in an RV on 17 acres for a while. So internet is not always the greatest thing. Now I'm in a city, I'm in a nice house, so it's not that big of an ordeal. But still, power goes out, Wi-Fi goes down. I like the VPS because it's secure, it's in the cloud, it's always running, I can access it from anywhere. I just prefer. Also, it's like, you can get started for like $8 a month, where if you go buy a Mac Mini, you're $500-$600. It's like I could have had it for 5 years on the VPS.
Yeah, I'm thinking of switching over. I just don't like having a computer running all the time in my life.
Right. Yeah.
Now let's get into the setup of Hermes Agent. All right, so the way that we're going to be doing this is on a VPS, which stands for a virtual private server. Now, I'm going to be using Hostinger for my Hermes Agent.
Who do you use?
I use DigitalOcean, but Hostinger and Vercel, they're equal. Just pick whichever one has a better bonus for you.
I've been using Hostinger for hosting N8N and for OpenClaw and for Cloud Code. So this is my VPS provider of choice. There's a link in the description if you guys want to go here. You can see there's also basically like a one-click install for Hermes Agent when you spin up one of these VPS. So very, very cool. Now, the first thing you have to do...
DigitalOcean also has a one-click install. A lot of them do now.
The plan. So on here, you can see KVM 1, 2, 4, or 8. I'm just going to go ahead and start with 2 for now. This basically just changes like how much CPU and RAM you have and your bandwidth in your server. So you could definitely...
What do you pay per month?
Well, I pay extra. I pay $24 a month, which I still can't believe people tell me that's expensive, but I just wanted to have plenty of room. I didn't want to have, it's like I could do $8 a month or $24 a month. I'm blessed to have a pretty successful business. It's not hurting me to be at $24 a month.
Definitely start on 1, and if you need to just scale up, you can
fast
deploy
forward
it. So you have to choose your period. So 24 months, 12 months, or 1 month. I think about 100. You can do the month plan, and then you're going to put that you want to use. So I'm going to do Ubuntu, and I'm going to do 24.04 LTS. And what else you can see here is that...
Interesting. He's doing Ubuntu. What are you using?
Yeah, Ubuntu. I mean, I just asked Claude, and Claude told me. I was like, all right, cool. Click this, click this.
Yeah, a lot of this is basically Claude telling you what to install. I feel like maybe we need to just move past this, right? There's nothing in here that
make
would need
like
to...
no sense at all. But here's a quick
it's quite simple.
Yeah, essentially what you're doing is you're spinning up a computer in the cloud, and that's what you're using.
Right, and so sign up for the account like you would normally sign up for any account. You're going to do the username and email and, put your credit card in there. And then from there, they usually have some kind of a documentation, and you can give that documentation to Claude or ChatGPT or whatever you're using, and it will tell you exactly what buttons to click on and take you through it.
And are you even seeing the computer? Are you even, what is it called when you do remote access? Are you doing that? How are you accessing it remotely?
Yeah, so sometimes you do have to, they call it like SSH into, or, use your terminal. Like he has it there. You got your VPS, that's your virtual private server, log in through SSH, and Hermes is running. In DigitalOcean, they allow you to use a password instead of SSH. SSH is more secure, so if you're, sensitive about that, do that. I don't need it, so I just did a password because that's very easy. Also, I have Claude set, there's a connection called Control My Mac, which means I don't have to open a terminal. Claude can just open a terminal and run any of those bash codes or grep codes or whatever there is.
I see. All the remote control happens.
Yeah, right. Okay. So Claude just does all that stuff for me.
Okay. I was going to pass this one video that you thought we should look at, this one clip about Docker. Let's hear what he says, and then I'd love to hear why you wanted to include it in when I was going to pass it.
What we're going to do is the one-click install. So we would go over to our Docker manager, and this is where we go ahead and click install. And remember how we have our main server, but if we wanted to spin up a bunch of different Docker containers inside of this server, we could do so. And that's how you could keep like different Hermes agents in here and kind of keep them separate. Okay, well, this says it's going to take 10 minutes. I doubt it. Okay, yeah, it just finished up. So I'm going to click compose. I'm going to go to one-click deploy. And then when this loads up, this is where I will search for Hermes, and I will click on select.
Why do you use Docker? Why did you want to make sure that we talked about that?
A great analogy is if you've ever had a drawer in your kitchen with your silverware and you shut that drawer too hard, all the silverware is all scattered along the place. Or you could put a little container in there, and all the forks go here, and all the spoons go here, and the knives go here. That's kind of like what Docker does. And I know coders are probably just cringing so bad at my analogy right here, but it allows you to install something in kind of a protective case so that it doesn't have access outside of that. And it's the proper best practice. You put it inside of Docker. That way it can only mess up what's inside of its Docker, and it can't spill over into other things. Then the one other security thing everybody really needs to know about, there's something called fail to ban. That's fail, the number 2 ban. That will allow you to have, like, if somebody's trying to access your stuff too often, it'll allow you to ban IP addresses. If somebody's trying to, like, brute force hack your websites, it'll detect that and it'll shut it off. So Docker protects your your server from bleed, and then fail to ban protects you at a very shallow level from hackers.
Okay.
Now, here is where you have to set an admin username and an admin password for your Hermes agent. I'm just going to leave this as default. I'm going to copy this password. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my Claude Code project, and I'm going to save the admin password and username into this new one. So right here, you can see it made this one called YouTube-Hermes. And what I want to do is I'm going to add a new file in here, call this one the .env. And then in this .env, I'm basically just going to do admin underscore username equals, and then admin underscore password equals. And then I'm going to paste those two things in here. So this is where I can keep myself organized with that.
Okay. And the reason he's doing a .env file is why?
Yeah, so there's numerous ways to do this. Essentially, you can, but you really shouldn't just go grab your API codes and your passwords and whatever and just paste those into your different AI programs.
Yeah.
So you are giving that out. It's not going to really go anywhere, but it's best practice. You shouldn't do that. So what he's saying is he's creating a separate place where he can store his username and passwords. That way it's not in just the main AI and it can just start being passed around or anything like that. What I do is I use a tool called 1Password. And so I can just go and I can create a new secret note file. You can put passwords in there. You can put secret notes in there. And so then I just have all my different access keys and secret keys and whatever protected in 1Password, and I can access them at any.
I saw that he had 1Password too. He's the .env. This is where you store private information, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at. I think we've got it from him. Let me see.
All right, so I've saved that to my
you can see
.env
the
file, and now I can
1Password.
click deploy. And this is going to spin up that container. And now if we want to access this, all we're going to have to do is click on this little button right here that it will give us, which will basically like put us into that container, and we can chat with Hermes, we can do the onboarding, we can do everything in there. But this main terminal button, that is going to take us to the root of our VPS, not inside of this Docker container. I hope I'm not losing you guys. I know this agent's on. Okay, so while that's getting stoned, the way see that this and use agent
There
thing
we
is
go.
set
Now
up.
he's
All
got
I have
it.
to do now is click on open. And this is where you have to go get the admin username and password that you just saved. So go grab that and put it in. And once you put that in, you basically just start the onboarding.
And this is what we saw before.
Yeah,
Sweet.
Right,
Okay.
Right. And so another reason why I like DigitalOcean is they have what's called a CLI, which means that your AI can just log in for you and do all of those button presses that he's talking about. It's like, I don't really know what an SSH is and a Docker and a terminal and all that. So I just use DigitalOcean because it's got a CLI. Claude, I just have to give it the key, and Claude goes in there and does everything.
You know what? If you have a referral code, give it out. We'll put it in the
I don't. It's fine.
You don't? All right, I'll find it. Okay, now we're getting into some of the amazing parts about it. I like this a lot, and still you're not using it as far as I know.
Now, once you're in here, there are many things you can be doing. I'm going to start off with one of the biggest features they released over the last month, which is the Kanban board. This is absolutely glorious for multitasking with Hermes Agent.
By the way, Kanban board for everything. I just want every single thing to have a Kanban board. I'm a visual person. The chat window becomes very
You are
difficult.
talking to your Hermes through Telegram or iMessage or Discord or whatever it is. You are talking in a single thread. You send a message, it receives that message and does work. If you try to send 10 messages at one time, they all get queued. So it's a very single file way to do work. The alternative is the Kanban board. Now you can do 10, 20, 30 strands at the same time. And if you're anything like me and you work on 20 different things a day, you're building a staff, you're writing content, you're managing community, you're doing a whole bunch of different things. You can't just have a single thread. You need to have.
Can we just pause for a second? Alex keeps talking about all these different businesses and things that he's running. I don't see it. What has he got? He has one tool that lets you publish on social media. He's got a school online learning platform, and
I
then
think he does a lot of content, so I'll give him that.
I'll give him that too.
Yeah. So I think he's writing a lot of content, researching a lot of things. He's probably keeping up on a lot of news so that he can be making the channels and the videos and stuff like that. But yeah, I've seen one business. It seems great. It has great reviews. I've not personally used it, but yeah, I see a business. So like a software. I see a school community, and then I see his channel.
But if you look at every comment in response to his big mouth posts on X, it's all, what are you building, dude? Look, what are you building? And I'm not against him. I really, really, really like him. I do think that it's like with all this building and understanding and running multiple computers, I think now's a good time for him to say, here's everything that I'm doing. Let's look at how big this is. And my hunch is it's not really as big as his mouth is. And I don't mean that as an insult, but it's coming
I think that's
across
his only
that way.
problem. I think there's a lot of hype. I think he's a great YouTuber, influencer,
Right.
content creator. He's got a good piece of software. I think he's just sometimes using too many hype words, and that's where it's creating a gap or a delta that people are experiencing.
Like the permanent underclass is one of his big things. If you don't learn all this, all right, let's make sure to learn it so that I don't become part of the permanent underclass.
Yes.
Multiple things going on at any given time. This is where the Kanban board comes in. And this is great because it's deeply integrated with everything Hermes. Let me show you how this works. So what I like to do is when I come in at the
His
beginning
demos
of the
are
day,
great.
I go into triage over here. So that is the leftmost column. There's a bunch of columns here. Triage, to do, ready, in progress, block, done. It's all in order. It's all how the tasks flow through. We start off in triage. I go in. I have my to-do list for the day. You can see it right here. And I go in and I type in everything I need to do. So I'll say discuss him hiring with AI, create, I'll do another one, message, live stream, clippers, create that, and then plan second channel. By the way, link for the second channel down below, Alex FinLabs, check that out, create that. And so it puts all my tasks in here. Now what's going to happen is in the next 60 seconds, a cron job will fire. And I have a Hermes agent. I'll show you how to do all this in a second. I'll show you how to set up everything I'm doing here. I have a very custom workflow I'm showing you right here. Within 60 seconds, my agent that's dedicated to managing this Kanban board will go in, see what's in triage, look at all my memories, fill out these tasks with details based on my memory so it's relevant for what I want to accomplish, and move it into ready. Allow me to then take that fully fleshed out task and assign it to an agent so I can get that work done. So you look in here, I created all these tasks a few minutes ago. They've all been taken from my manager agent, fleshed out, and put into ready. So let's pop open one of these here.
This looks good.
You can see here, the agent went in, looked at all my memories from my Obsidian memory system. I had a video on that like a month ago if you want information on that, and took all the context around it and put all these details in here. So instead of me having to go in and sit here for an hour, type in all the details of what I want the agent to do and add all this context, my agent is automatically doing that for me. Now, all I need to do is go in here, assign it to one of my agents. My main worker agents just named Hermes. I just like the name Hermes. I didn't give it a creative name. It is what it is. I hit enter. Now this is assigned to my main Hermes agent who will then, in a second, do the work for me. Look at the task name, look at the information, take it from ready to in progress.
Okay. The reason I wanted to ask you about this is because you're using Paperclip, which essentially does this too. Now that you see how he's done this in the Kanban board that's built into Hermes, does it make sense for you to switch to this?
It is, and people got to remember this is a pretty new feature. Like we're on like Hermes 0.14, and I think this came out 0.13. So it's only been out a couple of weeks. Paperclip's been out for quite a while. I think your first video was over a month ago on Paperclip, and I think Hermes is seeing how people are using Paperclip, and they're building some of those features in with /Kanban, /Goal is another one. And so, yeah, this is very convincing. Yeah, I like this a lot. In fact, I just installed the web user interface so that I could start playing around with this. But I have so much set up in Paperclip now. I'm like, I don't know if I want to just move it all over.
I'll tell you the one advantage of Paperclip. It's that you can get OpenClaw in, and eventually it's possible that OpenClaw will overtake Hermes. It's not out of the realm of possibility. And so with Paperclip, you can bring them all in. I think with Paperclip, you can bring human beings in a way that's natural. And so there's an advantage of that. In fact, I do have a video that I will link to below where you can see how Catherine Labrie, she uses it with, I think it's multiple agent types, and she brings the agents into her team to bring them on.
Yeah. You've also got budget allocation per agent and org structures, and so
that's the advantage. But this is a really, really nice all-in-one. You just want to have one thing. This is the way to do it. Okay, now let's look at some use cases. So this one I think is interesting. Boy, look at this. This guy's got massive views.
Yeah.
Okay. He's now going to talk about a basic
Start a new session here. And let's do something fun. Built into Hermes is a Home Assistant skill. I use Home Assistant to run my studio.
By the way, I didn't know what Home Assistant was. Home Assistant is software that connects to all the things that you have in your light. So if you have like lots of different brands of lighting and switches, which I do in my house, this will bring them all into one device. Now with Hermes, built in is a way
Let's make some things happen. I'll tell them to enable it first. I think it's disabled by default. Brilliant. The Home Assistant wanted to switch it on. I love the way he talks.
He's got a bigger beard than you.
Let me give him the IP address and key. And let's see what he does. And look at that. He's figuring things out, saving it to his memory. Okay, let's test it. Got that lamp behind me. Let's tell him to turn it off. Can you turn off Chuck lamp? Let's see what happens. He did it!
It's cool.
Okay. Cool use. I still can't for the life of me find a real need to do that. Can you?
I don't know. I mean, if your friends were coming over and you wanted to show off, probably. I don't know that I'm going to, because you got to remember there's API tokens and fees and stuff going along with this. So I mean, it probably just cost them 2 cents to turn that light off.
Not a big deal, but
it's not that big of a deal. But I don't need, I'm already trying to turn my light switches off to save money. I don't need to pay money to turn my light switches off.
Hey, for me, I'm driving my wife crazy with all the devices that she needs to access in order to turn the string lights on outside our property. I don't need another thing for her. Okay. All right. This is actually really interesting. This guy, Julian, he talked about the headline for his video is 237 use cases. What he really means is,
which is super powerful. And these are all
if you go to Hermes Agent,
people are using Hermes.
You can get
Hermes actually
all these
looked
uses.
through all the ways that people are using Hermes Agent and then created this collection right here, which is pretty cool. You actually see I've been featured over here, which is nice. They talked about my Substack post here, which was pretty awesome. But essentially, they've created this page, which is a collection of all the most useful ways that you can use Hermes Agent. So if you're not sure how to use Hermes, what to use it for, etc.
Let's fast forward. He's got a couple of uses. Why don't we take a look at where is that? The email
landing page.
It looks at your email inbox and then posts that summary to Slack directly. And it's pretty easy to set up these automations. If you're not sure how to do it, what you can actually do here is you can just go inside Hermes, and you can say, hey, I've got this idea. How do I automate it? So if I was like, okay, if I want to summarize my inbox plus post to Discord weekly at 9 a.m., how would you do it? Plus what tools do you need access to? And so any of these use cases that you...
Okay, by the way, this is a good time for me to bring up Zapier MCP. We have seen that Facebook employee who had all of her email deleted while she was freaking out when OpenClaw was going in and deleting it. The reason I want to bring up Zapier MCP is they're a sponsor of mine, and also they will allow you to give Hermes Agent the control you want within email. Like, I want you to read my email, but not write and not send. Or I want you to read my email. I want you to draft messages for me, but not send those messages. You give that power through Zapier MCP, and then Zapier MCP is what you come in and give Hermes, and that then gives it just the access that you give it permission for. Okay, we got that. He's also talking about lead gen here. And by the way, you are someone who I hope we have enough time for you to just show us one of your use cases, because here's the problem. No one's actually showing it in action.
Prompt that I would give it: find 25 B2B companies in crypto, SaaS, or creator tools that...
And then he's basically saying, here's my prompt, and then I want you to put it into anywhere, like a Notion doc, a CRM. I get it. I wish you would show it. I wish you would say, now look at the result. And I'm just not seeing enough of that. He did, though, build...
There's a lot of news. There's a lot of potential things you could do with it. And I think that there is a lane for that. But I'm with you. I want to see more like show me what you actually did. I've got a pretty cool one I'd love to show you when we get to there.
Okay, let me go quickly then to one other one. So he's doing that. He also has one that does YouTube research. Again, he's showing the prompt. I'd love to see it actually in action.
As my YouTube research operator, find 10 recent videos in the AI agent.
But this is a really good use. Find videos that are outperforming their average, and then for each one, I want you to give me the title, channel, and views. What I'd love for him to have done is say, here's how to do it. And with YouTube, you can get fairly inexpensively access to this kind of data. They clearly want you to have that. All right, here's one that I think is a use case that this is where the money is today.
Let's just dive right in. Let's go into the offer.
Greg Eisenberg interviewed someone who's saying, look, the way to do it is to set it up for clients.
So when you're starting a one-person agent business, you need to remove all the friction for your customers. They don't want to think about tokens.
He's saying, look, here's the offer. Give them unlimited agents, unlimited usage, infrastructure included, ongoing workflows, security updates, so they're not dealing with any of this. And I do see, I've interviewed several people who do this. Clients are willing to pay for it. Having said that, I want to see more personal uses. Now, do you have enough time to show us one of yours?
I do. I'll talk about this one really quickly. A lot of my clients, I really only have a couple of clients. I have my own businesses, but I do work on the side for things that I find fun. And this one, he works for Robert Kiyosaki, and I've been helping them with some of their automation.
This is one of your clients who does that. Okay.
Yeah. And so they've got plenty of money. And that's what people need to understand is just because maybe you might not have money doesn't mean other people don't have money. And usually people with money don't have time. They don't want to figure out CLIs and terminals and SSH. Like they just want to pay you a few $1,000s to make sure it's all set up correctly. And there's a lot of people that need that right now. So for what it's worth, this is a very viable, legit business model people can do is just go around installing Hermes for people.
I interviewed a high school student. I'll link it up below who's doing this. And Peter talked about how Peter retweeted him. And so I got somebody at his school to make an introduction so I can interview him. He's doing well with this. Yeah. Let's take a look at, actually, why don't we look at goals for a moment? And then that'll tie into what you're doing. Here, I'll bring it up. /goal. He gets so excited about it that I start to get hyped up about
the
it.
next major feature I want to talk about, and I think this is one of the most underrated developments in AI this entire year, is /goal. There are two major platforms right now that utilize this new /goal functionality. That's Codex from OpenAI and now Hermes. Hermes actually beat OpenClaw to this. Let's talk about /goal and how it works. So let's go into our terminal. We're going to say Hermes. That is going to open up our Hermes CLI so we can interact directly with our Hermes agent. From in here, I can now use /goal. /goal is very different than just sending a prompt. When you send a prompt, it has very specific actions and the agent takes those actions. /goal instead gives your agent a mission. It is a high-level mission that the agent can take many steps to do that can go over very long time periods. I've seen some people do /goals that have literally run for 3+ days straight. Obviously, you don't want to be using Opus for this if you're doing a multi-agent mission. I'd probably recommend using the ChatGPT OAuth, or even better, a local model. Video on local models coming very soon. But /goal allows you to do very high-level, big missions that your agent will go after, figure out how to accomplish, do multi-step approaches, test itself the entire way. It's basically like a Ralph loop, but for your AI agent. So you got to open up the CLI, you got to do /goal, and then you type in your goal. One thing I need to say here is the quality of your prompt for the /goal is very, very critical. If you just do say /goal and say, hey, build me a game, you're not going to get very good results. I would highly recommend meta prompting here. And basically what I mean by that is go to your favorite LLM, ChatGPT, Claude, whatever. Say, hey, I'm trying to build a /goal prompt for my agent. This is what I'm trying to accomplish. please write me a prompt that gives me a super detailed /goal prompt. It will give you a prompt that will be probably extremely detailed and allow your agent to do a lot more work. I did.
Okay.
All right.
How did you use it?
Let
Let
me
me
show
stop
mine
sharing
here.
my screen. Let's see how you do it. The example that he used was find every broken wiki link and every orphan page. And that's the kind of thing that /goal is especially good at because there's a clear win or loss there.
Yeah.
It knows
So
it.
when /goal came out, I was like, let me test it on something, just wild. I was having fun. Yeah, I wasn't expecting it to really do anything. Only thing I changed on what we're about to see is the headline, just because I knew I was going to send this to my wife, and so I just wanted to be a little funny. But everything else Hermes did, and so I did /goal help me sell my property that I'm selling in Roan Mountain, because we have this website which another agent built. For our property. So I did, /goal help me sell my agent, and this thing started cooking. Like, it started doing all kinds of research and Zillow lookups and MLS lookups and things like that. It found somebody right up the road from me and how much they sold for, and he was like, actually, you guys are underrepresenting the property based on the 21 comps that I've looked at. And so he told us, like, hey, you actually need to be listing this at 525, not 475. And then when we talked to a realtor, she was like, yeah, absolutely. That's we would agree with that statement. So did all the research to find out the right prices and actual properties that have sold, all that stuff. Then it came up with a 5-phase plan, things that we should add to the website, like an embedded video walkthrough with a drone tour, add the Google Maps, update the price, SEO, all kinds of stuff for us. Then it went and looked up the places where we should market this thing for us, and so it was like, look, you want to post to these 11 Craigslist locations, Zillow, Facebook Marketplace, Landflip. I didn't even know Lands of America or Landwatch. I didn't know they existed.
And by the way, the responsibility on these is Jeffrey. Jeffrey is your AI.
Yes. Yeah.
Hermes.
He built all this, built the web page, and then came up with a media buying plan. He was like, hey, what kind of budget do you want to put towards this? I said, I'll give you $1,000 to help me sell the house. And so he said, all right, cool. We're going to put 600 on Facebook. We're going to put 200 with Google ads for people looking to buy land in the area. So he came up with a media buying plan. And then here's the thing. It wrote everything out. Here's the Zillow listing. Here's the Reddit post that I'm supposed to do, the Facebook Marketplace listings.
Oh, yeah.
It even looked up the compliance rules to make sure I don't get kicked off of any of these different things. So, yeah, it did a phenomenal. It came up with scripts for when we're talking to buyers. When they ask, why are we selling? We should say this. Has it been surveyed? Like, this thing cooked, man. So /goal can actually do some real work.
And the goal you said was sell the place for me.
Yeah, I was tongue in cheek. I was like, sell my property for me, But I mean, it did something, So
I like this a lot. I like it a lot. I'm excited about Hermes so much. I'm excited about agents in general. I feel like this has been a really good way for us to understand them and to also react to some of the videos that are out there to understand, do these people, do they have it right? And I think here's what we've discovered. The people who are teaching you how to set it up nailed it. The people who are teaching you how to actually use it, I think they're just a little flimsy with it. I want more substantive examples like what you used here, the examples you gave in your video. And as a follow-up to this, we're going to have a link to the interview that you and I did where you showed how you use this in your business. All you have to do if you're watching is click that and watch it next.